Hello, my name's Todd Bridges, and I lead the Engineering with Nature initiative for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And I'd like to welcome you to our virtual launch event for Volume 2 of the Engineering with Nature Atlas. The initiative celebrated its 10th anniversary in 2020. We've covered a lot of ground in the last decade. Partnership is fundamental to Engineering with Nature. The EWN initiative is about advancing a partnership between engineering and nature. Innovation in delivering nature-based solutions is being fueled by our partnerships across the public, private, nonprofit, and academic sectors. The multi-sector interest and desire for nature-based solutions around the U.S. and the globe continues to build. There are many motivations behind the pursuit and application of nature-based solutions, including the nature of the challenges and opportunities faced by our communities and society, the challenges of climate change, and the opportunity to create more sustainable futures for humanity. The desire and expectation for expanded and diversified value from infrastructure investment is also a motivation, to include expanding engineering, economic, environmental, and social value. And ultimately, the need for new solutions that deliver 21st century infrastructure. Solutions that achieve a new balance, if you will, between the artificial and the natural. We published Volume 1 of the Engineering with Nature Atlas in 2018. It included 57 built projects from around the world that illustrate the principles and practices of engineering with nature. Volume 1 of the Atlas, and now the series of atlases, was sparked by a conversation I had in 2016 with James Dalton, who at the time was the Director of Civil Works for the Army Corps of Engineers. He said, "Todd, you need to show people what these projects look like. In other words, what they are, how they work." And by people, he was referring to practitioners as well as the public. In that conversation, James was doing what good leaders do. He was prompting progress. Over the last decade, we've done a lot within Engineering with Nature. And over the last 2.5 years, Volume 1 of the EWN Atlas has been a tremendously valuable communication tool in the ongoing dialogue about creating value through engineering by leveraging the goodness of nature. Now, in 2021, we are publishing Volume 2 of the EWN Atlas. Volume 2 contains a new set of 62 built projects in the ground or in the water in places all around the world. These projects illustrate the 4 elements of engineering with nature, using science and engineering to produce efficiencies, using natural processes to maximize benefits, expanding and diversifying project benefits and value, and collaborating to deliver innovative solutions. The projects in Volume 2 span a broad range of engineering contexts and purposes, including flood risk management, navigation infrastructure, water operations, coastal and river engineering, erosion management, and on and on. And these projects are producing a cornucopia of economic, environmental, and social benefits. The projects also demonstrate the power of multi-sector collaboration and partnership in delivering nature-based solutions. A host of organizations partnered to build the projects in Volume 2. And we look forward to hearing from leaders from a few of these organizations today during this launch event. And the Army Corps of Engineers is proud to share 23 of our projects delivered with our project partners in the pages of Volume 2. And those projects were delivered by 16 U.S. Army Corps of Engineers districts from across the Corps' enterprise. Together, Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the Atlas showcase 118 Engineering with Nature projects from around the world, 50 of which were led by the Army Corps of Engineers. The bottom line is that the infrastructure community knows how to build nature-based solutions. It knows. The opportunity before us is to expand the application of that know-how and experience to create value for all. It's now my honor to introduce a message from the Chief of Engineers, Lieutenant General Scott Spellmon.
Hello everyone, my name is Lieutenant General Scott Spellmon, 55th Chief of Engineers and Commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We say our vision in the Army Corps of Engineers is to engineer solutions for our nation's toughest challenges. And delivering infrastructure to sustain our communities, economy, and environment calls for us to be innovative, to modernize, and even revolutionize our approach to infrastructure development. And partnering with nature is a vital part of delivering those solutions in the 21st century. The second volume of the Engineering with Nature Atlas includes great project examples from the United States and around the world. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and a host of organizations show what it means to partner with nature to engineer solutions to meet our climate change challenges. These projects are delivering broad engineering, economic, environmental, and social value and demonstrate the potential and power of engineering with nature. Relationships and partnerships are vital ingredients for innovation and progress. We don't succeed in delivering the program without partners. And the 23 USACE projects highlighted in this year's Engineering with Nature Atlas illustrate the importance of domestic and international partnerships. The Atlas also highlights the value of our international partnerships with the Environment Agency in England and the Rijkswaterstaat in the Netherlands. And in order to deliver engineering solutions, we work with others across the public, private, and nonprofit sectors, and with the communities our projects serve. I hope you discover new ideas and renewed inspiration in Volume 2 of our Engineering with Nature Atlas. By sharing and applying these ideas, we can expand our progress in building sustainable and resilient communities and economies with nature. Thank you for joining us in this celebration today.
I want to thank General Spellmon for his service and his leadership, and particularly today for his support for Engineering with Nature. The Chief provided an inspiring foreword that is included in Volume 2 of the Atlas, and I encourage you to read that and draw some inspiration from it. Next, we're going to hear from 7 senior leaders from partners in the Engineering with Nature initiative, and I'll briefly introduce them to you now. Ms. Jennifer Morris is the Chief Executive Officer of the Nature Conservancy. Ms. Catherine Wright is the Director of Digital and Skills, Flood and Coastal Risk Management, the Environment Agency in England. Dr. Steve Thurr is the Director of National Centers for Coastal Ocean Science, National Ocean Service, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Dr. Don Leo is the Dean of the College of Engineering at the University of Georgia. Mr. Harold van Weveren is the Principal Advisor on Flood Safety with the Rijkswaterstaat in the Netherlands. Colonel Sebastian Jolly is the Commander of the United States Army Corps of Engineers Mobile District. And Mr. John Sampson Sr. is Vice President for Operations, Manufacturing, and Engineering with Dow.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Morris, CEO of the Nature Conservancy. It's an honor to be invited by the Engineering with Nature program to participate in this virtual event today. Congratulations to the Corps and this program on its 10-year anniversary. That is a momentous achievement, and I know you have so much more good work to do. And many thanks to Dr. Bridges and Dr. King at Engineering with Nature for their leadership in advancing nature-based infrastructure and for partnering with the Nature Conservancy to build stronger, more resilient communities and a healthier environment for all. We all understand how extreme weather events made more frequent and intense due to climate change can have damaging, dangerous, and expensive effects on communities. Since 1980, these weather events have caused more than $1 trillion in damages in the United States alone. We also know all too well that our country's infrastructure needs serious improvement. But there is good news. At the intersection of the climate crisis and infrastructure reform is a tremendous opportunity to build a stronger, more resilient future. That opportunity is nature. Investing in nature can provide clean and reliable water supplies, support fish and wildlife habitats, and reduce risks from floods, droughts, extreme heat, and fires. Nature-based solutions can save money, too. After Hurricane Sandy in 2012, TNC scientists found that coastal wetlands prevented more than $625 million in potential property damages. And at a time when the country is grappling with the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, deploying nature-based solutions has enormous potential to create jobs and boost local economies. Having been on the forefront of nature-based solutions for more than a decade, it's clear that the Corps, through its Engineering with Nature program, is well positioned to accelerate these types of projects in the period ahead. I'm so proud of TNC's innovative nature-based projects and partnerships that are featured in the Atlas we are celebrating today. In Havana, Illinois, for example, the recently constructed water control structure at TNC's Emaquan Preserve helps manage water levels so that we can restore and sustain native plant and animal communities. This work helps to control invasive species like Asian carp, protect adjacent roadways and public facilities, and improve water quality. At Jekyll Creek on Georgia's coast, TNC partnered with the Corps, state and local authorities to pilot the use of dredged material from the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway to restore coastal wetlands. This effort will help wetlands adapt to sea level rise and continue to act as important buffers to coastal erosion and storms. It also provides critical wildlife and water quality benefits while serving as a model for similar projects throughout the region. In 2005, Taunton, Massachusetts experienced record flooding that forced the evacuation of the city's downtown area. To help build resiliency for the city, TNC partnered with federal, state, and local conservation leaders to remove 3 dams and rebuild a 4th with a critical fish passage. This successful project resulted in improved water quality, growing fish populations, and reduced flood risk for Taunton and surrounding areas. Partnerships, innovative solutions, and nature. This is the winning combination to help bolster infrastructure and help people and nature thrive. It's wonderful to see this compilation of nature-based work partnerships and projects in the Atlas. At the Nature Conservancy, we are excited to continue our long-standing commitment to working with the Engineering with Nature program. And we share the program's commitment to global collaboration with public, private, academic, and NGO partners. This is exactly the kind of collective energy we need to revolutionize the use of nature-based solutions. Together, we can advance the science, the tools, and support needed to build a stronger, more resilient infrastructure for our nation and the world. Thank you.
I'm Catherine Wright from the Environment Agency in England, and our role is to ensure that the country is more resilient to flood risk, to improve the environment, and to enable sustainable green growth. And it's a huge privilege to be part of this international collaboration that is Engineering with Nature, led by the US Army Corps of Engineers. And over the last few years, we've been investing in Engineering with Nature. 50 schemes delivered with communities up and down the country, like the 2 that we're delighted to have featured in the new Atlas, in Ellis Meadows in the Leicester in the Midlands, and Smith Hill Moorland in Manchester in the Northwest. And what we've learned from these schemes is not only can they reduce flood risk downstream, improve the environment, but they can deliver a wide range of other benefits like open green spaces that can be enjoyed by communities. And in the case of the Manchester scheme, keeping water on moorland, which can reduce summer fire risk. So the climate emergency is increasing flood risk, it is increasing the risk of drought and bringing with it sea level rise. And if we're to meet those challenges, then engineering with nature, with its ability to both take carbon out of the whole process of reducing flood risk, but also playing a vital role in enabling adaptation, will be a key part of that journey to addressing the climate emergency. In the summer last year, we published a new national flood and coastal erosion risk management strategy. And one of the ambitions in that strategy is to create climate resilient places. And over the next 6 years, we'll be investing in many more, around 200 engineering with nature schemes up and down the country. And the Atlas and the vital underpinning research, the fruit of this great international collaboration with the US Army engineers, will be a vital part of the evidence that helps us to deliver those schemes effectively and tackle the climate emergency. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Thur, and I work for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. There, I'm the director of the National Centers for Coastal Ocean Science, one of the Engineering with Nature partners. Our agency's mission is to understand and predict changes in climate, weather, oceans, and coasts, to share that knowledge with others, and to conserve and manage coastal and marine ecosystems. The Engineering with Nature program is perfectly aligned with NOAA's mission, and we're proud to have worked with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and other partners for years. Over much of the past century, our nation addressed environmental challenges in a piecemeal fashion. How do we control flooding to protect property? How do we sustainably manage fisheries as a long-term source of protein, livelihoods, and communities? How do we conserve and manage marine and coastal resources for the enjoyment of future generations? And how do we provide recreational access, aesthetic improvement, and the spiritual renewal that comes from being in nature? But these are not either-or questions, and shifts during the last couple of decades have demonstrated the benefits of a more integrated, holistic approach to addressing environmental challenges. The last century of coastal development projects were dominated by concrete, riprap, and bulkhead. I firmly believe the next century will be dominated by the use of natural features like marshes, dune systems, oyster reefs, barrier islands, and mangroves. I want to highlight one project in the second volume of the Engineering with Nature Atlas. Ewell is a small town on one of the last remaining inhabited islands in Maryland's portion of the Chesapeake Bay. There, the residents maintain a unique culture, one that's intimately tied to working the water. Like all such communities in the Chesapeake, their way of life and their very homes are threatened by erosion, subsidence, and sea level rise. Predominant winds are from the northwest, and the town is protected from the erosive action of waves by neighboring Swan Island. Unfortunately, Swan Island has decreased in size because of those same factors threatening Ewell, reducing its effectiveness in protecting the town. In a partnership involving NOAA, the Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the state of Maryland, and the town, the Swan Island Restoration Project beneficially used dredge material from a nearby navigation channel to rebuild the island, plant native salt marsh, and monitor the biological response post-construction. Each partner brought their unique expertise to the project, resulting in something that none of the participants could have achieved on their own. NOAA's role was to advise on certain design aspects, and now we are conducting research to determine the biological effectiveness of the project. Our monitoring may be used to adaptively manage Swan Island in the future to help continue protection of the town of Ewell. Perhaps more importantly, what we are learning through our research at Swan Island can be used in the design and implementation of projects elsewhere. In my opinion, That is the power of the Engineering with Nature program, creating a community of practice that communicates about and partners in sustainably designing our future. I would like to congratulate all those involved in the second volume of the Engineering with Nature Atlas. Thank you both for the substantive on-the-ground and in-the-water work of the profiled projects, as well as for writing the clear, compelling summaries contained in the Atlas. Very well done.
Hello everyone, my name is Don Leo and I have the honor of serving as the Dean of the College of Engineering at the University of Georgia. Our institution is the flagship public university in the state of Georgia, and as a land-grant and sea-grant university, we are committed to improving communities across the state and beyond its borders through high-quality scholarship, teaching, and service. Our College of Engineering is a relatively new college. We'll celebrate our 10th anniversary as a standalone college next year. But we're now almost 3,000 students, faculty, and staff that are focused on creating communities of learning, discovery, and innovation that improve the quality of life in Georgia, in the nation, and across the world. The University of Georgia is pleased to be a co-founder of the Engineering with Nature Network, and we are committed to making it a success. This initiative is an excellent example of the type of interdisciplinary research, education, and service that is the hallmark of our college and university. We appreciate the collaboration and support of the Engineering Research and Development Center at the Army Corps of Engineers. We're also very excited to be working across disciplines at the University of Georgia to address the many research challenges in the Engineering with Nature initiative. Our college has worked with partners across UGA to create the Institute for Resilient Infrastructure Systems, or IRIS. IRIS is led by Dr. Brian Bledsoe, professor in the College of Engineering and also the UGA Athletic Association professor in Resilient Infrastructure. The Institute is dedicated to advancing the integration of natural and conventional infrastructure systems to strengthen society's resilience to flooding, sea level rise, drought, and other disruptions. It has partners across campus in almost all the research disciplines, including our Odom School of Ecology, the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, the College of Public Health, and many partners in the natural and social sciences, and the Terry College of Business and School of Law, understand risk management practices and policy. We're also working with ERDEC and our partners at UGA and elsewhere on creating novel programs that educate and train a new generation of people who understand engineering with nature. In addition to curriculum and undergraduate and graduate level, we're developing continuing education courses and working with our partners in public service and outreach to educate government officials and decision makers in key issues surrounding community resilience. Our goal is to make the University of Georgia and the state of Georgia leaders in using engineering with nature concepts to improve the health, welfare, and resilience of our communities. In the coming year, the Institute for Resilient Infrastructure Systems will move into a new research space in the second phase of the interdisciplinary STEM research facility, a 200,000 square foot building specifically designed for collaborative research. This year, we'll be working with ERDEC and other partners across the state to assess the resiliency of critical installations in the state of Georgia. We're working with our partners on the coast, such as UGA Marine Extension and the Skidaway Institute for Oceanography, on projects in coastal resilience. And our work with state, local, and federal officials is to create one or more proving grounds so that we may take what we learn in our classrooms and research labs and translate it into real-world solutions that benefit communities across our state, across the nation, and throughout the world. It has never been more important to create new and innovative ways to make our communities healthier and more resilient. At the University of Georgia, we're committed to making our partnership in the Engineering with Nature initiative a cornerstone of our research, teaching, and scholarship in the years to come. We look forward to working with our partners in the Army Corps, in industry, and throughout academia to make the project a success.
I am Harold van Waveren, the Dutch Rijkswaterstaat Principal Advisor on Flood Risk and Climate Change. Rijkswaterstaat was created, like the US Army Corps of Engineers, over 200 years ago, as part of the Ministry of Defense, principally for the same reasons. At that time, we already noticed the need to provide overview, project management, guidance, and funding for water management, as well as inland navigation. Rijkswaterstaat is now the executive agency of the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management. We manage and develop national roads and waterways and aim for a sustainable living environment, Together with others, we are working for a country that is protected against flooding, where there is ample space for nature and biodiversity and sufficient and clean water, and where you can get from A to B quickly and safely. Rijkswaterstaat started to recognize in the 90s that the era of massive grey infrastructure was over. Our wake-up call came with 2 near-catastrophic fluvial floods on the rivers Rhine and Meuse. We needed to become more innovative to create room for the river. But how do you achieve this on time and within budget in a densely populated country like the Netherlands? At the same time, Al Gore's film The Inconvenient Truth raised political awareness on climate change and the resulting extremes in precipitation and sea level rise. Issues that are a matter of national survival for a flood-prone country with 30% of its land below sea level. Together with the devastating effects of Hurricane Katrina in the US, these developments led to the Dutch Second Delta Program in 2008. Instead of working against water, we pledged to work with water. Engineering with nature became the new and adaptive no-regret approach. Currently, engineering with nature is applied on numerous sites. Apart from the Dutch Room for the River project and our famous coastal sand engine, we applied engineering with nature principles in many smaller projects. Many focus on flood protection, but also on water storage and nature conservation. As an important added benefit, the societal gain is often a perceived better environment with interesting opportunities for local recreation and small businesses. One of these projects mentioned in the Atlas is the Marker Wadden. This consists of new islands to create more ecological diversity. It also protects an important dam by reducing the impact of waves on the structure. This is where I'm standing now. Marker Wadden is part of an ecological so-called bridge, linking various nature areas together. Engineering with nature is already seen as a no-regret option to become more adaptive to the effects of climate change. In our spatial plans we need to consider water more than ever before. And we also need to stress test our communities and infrastructure as part of the Rijkswaterstaat mission. This is recognized not only in the Netherlands, but will also become part of the new European climate law. The reality is, of course, given the predicted rainfall and river discharges and sea level rise, that we need a blend of grey and green infrastructure. Finally, we'd like to thank the US Army Corps of Engineers and its Engineering Research and Development Center for the opportunity to contribute to this Engineering with Nature Atlas #2.
Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Todd Bridges, for hosting this great event. I'm honored to be talking to you today, celebrating the completion of the approximately $400 million effort to restore Ship and Cat Islands, which was a key part of the Mississippi Coastal Improvements Program. The islands are key coastal features, and their structure and longevity are extremely important to the health of the Mississippi Sound estuary system and the overall resilience of the coast. We placed over 21 million cubic yards of sand on these islands using a multi-phase construction approach over a 3-year period. In addition, we planted nearly 420,000 plants to support the growth of the dunes on the restored features. We're extremely pleased with the outcome that ultimately created over 1,000 acres of valuable habitat for various species of birds, turtles, and other animals that use our wonderful coast. Speaking on behalf of the men and women of the Corps, I'd like to express how much we appreciate the coming together of numerous federal and state agencies who made this restoration possible for the people of Mississippi. Along with our partners at the National Park Service, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, the state of Mississippi, and other federal partners, the Army Corps of Engineers continues to be committed to the complete success of this restoration effort. To put it another way, the restoration of Ship Island is the second largest restoration project in the history of the National Park Service. That's a big deal for us in the Corps of Engineers and how we work and serve our partners, and we're extremely proud of how it turned out. More impressively, we completed the project approximately $50 million under budget, which is a testament to the success we can all achieve when we truly work collaboratively across state and federal agencies to accomplish a common goal. Ever since the Mississippi Coastal Improvements Program launched at the direction of Congress after Hurricane Katrina, our mission on the Barrier Islands has been to repair the damage caused by both Katrina and Hurricane Camille years earlier, and to strengthen the resilience of the Mississippi coast against storms of the future. The results and success of that mission continue to be defined by the work of the talented men and women who make up our dedicated teams. However, none of this would have been possible without the support of Mississippi's congressional delegation, the Governor's Office, and the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. We are thankful for their foresight, their leadership, and their continued support of our program. In closing, I'll leave you with this. The Corps is proud to be building ground, building islands, and building strong, with our partnerships in all 50 states and across the federal government. Partnerships that are rebuilding our nation's infrastructure and protecting critical natural resources. We did it on Ship and Cat Islands. We've been doing it for almost 244 years, and we'll do it anywhere and everywhere our nation demands it of us. Thank you all for your time today. Essayons.
Good morning. My name is John Sampson. I am a Senior Vice President for Operations, Manufacturing, and Engineering for Dow. In my role, I'm accountable for Dow's global operations. In addition, I work very closely with Dow's leadership team in designing our company strategy. Central to Dow's strategy is our ambition to be the most sustainable materials science company in the world. When we talk sustainability at Dow, we consider the full value chain, from our raw materials to the end products. We realize that global issues like climate change, ocean waste, water scarcity, and biodiversity loss are already placing significant stress on the value chain and global communities. The world needs environmental leadership now to address these issues. For Dow, we realize that if we are able to fulfill our ambition, we have the responsibility and opportunity to take action and lead in areas where our science and expertise can make a difference. For example, we are making strides through our recently released carbon reduction targets, which aim for Dow to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. We have ambitious targets to eliminate plastic waste. Our Stop the Waste goal is our commitment to invest and/or collaborate in key technologies and infrastructure to significantly increase global recycling. Within 10 years, we commit to enabling 1 million metric tons of plastics to be collected, reused, or recycled through our direct actions and partnerships. And through our Close the Loop goal, we are committed to working with customers and the value chain to address packaging applications so that 100% of our products are reusable, recyclable by 2035. With the launch of these new targets, we embrace this opportunity to drive meaningful progress and do so by collaborating with our value chain and industry partners, governments, NGOs, communities, and other stakeholders. We haven't abandoned our established sustainability goals. Rather, the targets align to and build upon our 2025 sustainability goals. One of our significant goals is the Valuing Nature goal, which aims at identifying $1 billion in net present value through projects that are good for business and better nature. We recognize as significant landowners that we have opportunities inside and outside our fence line to implement engineering with nature principles, to bring resilience to our coastlines, protect our communities, and pursue partnerships and collaborations that will ultimately deliver economic, environmental, and social benefits. I'm excited to say of the many value nature projects Dow has around the world, 4 are featured in Volume 2 of the Engineering with Nature Atlas. These 4 projects have documented value cases of greater than $14 million in net present value and illustrate the opportunity of incorporating nature in our business decisions and applying the principles of engineering with nature in our project portfolios. Nature has no fence line, and neither should we. A sustainable future is attainable if we all come together to drive forward science and technology-based solutions, including principles of engineering with nature and nature-based solutions to address global challenges. From Team Dow, congratulations on launching the EWN Atlas Volume 2. Keep leading, keep innovating, and keep inspiring.
Collaboration and partnership are levers for progress. The diversity of perspectives, experiences, and capabilities within and across the organizations we've just heard from are moving engineering with nature forward. Next in our program is a panel discussion, a great panel, with leaders from each of the organizations we've just heard from, including some of the very leaders you've just seen. I'm going to introduce everybody before we begin our panel discussion this morning. Ms. Lynn Scarlett is the Chief of External Affairs for the Nature Conservancy. Dan Bond is the Environment Agency and England's Deputy Director for Flood and Coastal Risk Management Strategy. Dr. Don Leo is the Dean of the College of Engineering at the University of Georgia. Mr. Harold van Waveren is the Principal Advisor on Flood Safety at the Rijkswaterstaat in the Netherlands. Ms. Eunice Heath is the Global Director of Sustainability and the Implementation Leader for Valuing Nature at Dow. Dr. Steve Thurr is the Director of the National Centers for Coastal and Ocean Science at NOAA. And Mr. Justin McDonald is the Mississippi Coastal Program Manager at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Mobile District. Welcome, panelists. Thank you for joining us for our discussion today. I'd like to start first by asking Lynn Scarlett a question. Lynn, how do you think the nonprofit and government sectors can work together in the future to advance implementation of engineering with nature and nature-based solutions?
Thanks, Todd. Well, we've seen a lot of that in action in those video presentations. Of course, the nonprofit sector comes in many forms, focus, missions, areas of expertise. And when you think about that mix, we, working with governments, working with the private sector, help take science to action and concept to practice. And we do that through knowledge building, creation of tools to assess opportunities, building of partnerships, and then on-the-ground projects of which we've seen a sampling. So think about engineering with nature in particular. Engagement spans generating the relevant science and economics. For example, the Conservancy, working with the Corps, working with other private sector entities, has assessed the relative cost effectiveness of natural infrastructure, hybrids, traditional structures. We've done this in particular for coastal resilience systems. We're a very important player in integrating knowledges across disciplines. So engineering, ecology, economics, hydrology. Nonprofits can be a good silo bridger, driving that multi-sector collaboration, Todd, that you referenced in your opening remarks. And then, of course, translating to science to action is important through on-the-ground projects. We heard our CEO at the Nature Conservancy talk about the Emiquon Preserve in Illinois, but so many other opportunities with floodplain restoration and so forth. And then, of course, engineering with nature is somewhat new. Yes, it's the 10th anniversary, but for a lot of people, there's still a lot of awareness building and educating on what the opportunities are. So NGOs partnering with government and the private sector can really help build that awareness. And then finally, of course, we build partnerships with governments, the private sector, and others on specific projects, but then nationally to provide that support both in policy as well as in funding to help advance engineering with nature. So I just want to sort of close on how we all work together and how critical that collaboration is, that partnering with nature can bring solutions, and partnering with nature means partnering among the private sector, governments, the NGO sector to advance coastal safety, flood protection, and so forth. And the benefit, of course, redounds to both people and nature. So we're thrilled to partner with the Army Corps on the engineering with nature endeavor.
Thank you very much, Lynn, for that great response. The nonprofit sector clearly does have a very important kind of role to kind of glue the parties together to achieve these kinds of solutions. Steve Thurr, you're up next. Steve, extending the previous question a bit, how do you think collaboration and partnering across government agencies can accelerate engineering with nature and nature-based solution implementation?
Thanks, Todd, for both the question and the opportunity to participate in the panel. I think there are two very distinct ways that interagency collaboration can advance engineering with nature. And the first, and to me the most obvious, is the leveraging of both the capability and the capacities that the individual agencies have. And so our relationship with our agency partners is built around maximizing what makes each of us unique. And we bring certain skills to the table that complement those of other agencies. And so within my agency, NOAA, we have a fair amount of expertise in biological monitoring, but we're not nearly as strong in coastal engineering. And we may rely upon others for certain other interactions, like local community engagement, if we're not so familiar in a particular place. And so I think the most obvious connection for me of how agencies can partner is that leveraging of both capability and capacity. So we have to have enough bodies, enough resourcing, enough funding to make a substantial improvement in a particular region. The second and less obvious, but I think equally important way, is that we view collaboration as creation of a network of networks. And so each one of our agencies has an existing set of stakeholders. There are ones that we regularly communicate with. That could be private sector industry partners. It could be citizen groups at the local or state level. It could be those congressional backers that provide the appropriated dollars for our activities. And by linking multiple federal agencies together, what we're doing is forming a network of those networks to advance engineering with nature. So those are a couple of the ways I think I have seen it happen, and I think that's why we have so much promise for the future.
Thank you very much, Steve. Different agencies have different mandates and missions. And I think that the potential to combine these to deliver multi-purpose projects is tremendous, I believe, this century. And I think we very much value, the Corps very much values our partnership with NOAA, and I have great expectations for what we're going to be doing together in the future. Don Leo, next question is for you. Don, education is the key that unlocks future prosperity. What do you think are the key opportunities for education and the sector of education research to really kind of unlock the expansion of engineering with nature?
Well, thank you, Todd. Thanks also for the question and for asking me to participate today. I think any university like the University of Georgia or others here in the United States or around the world, as you mentioned, our role is to educate the next generation of practitioners who are going to implement the engineering with nature concepts. And I think there's a couple key aspects to what we need to do at a university like UGA or others. One is I think we need to take the opportunity to incorporate these concepts at all different levels of our education and research and service enterprise. Think about how do we take the philosophies and the topics that are so greatly displayed in the Atlas and integrate those not only at the undergraduate level, at the graduate level, but also within all different aspects of our research enterprise as well. And I think another point related to that, and we've heard it already several times today, is the opportunity is how do we expand on the interdisciplinary nature of the Engineering with Nature initiative and incorporate those aspects of interdisciplinarity into our education and research mission. And I think this is a trend that's been occurring for years in institutions like ours, but I think Engineering with Nature is a great example of how we have to be even more interdisciplinary, not just interdisciplinary in terms of, say, the engineering and the sciences, but we've already heard it today around how we need to be interdisciplinary to reach out to risk management, the business communities, the economics, because the types of projects that we're talking about are not only technical projects, but they're also social projects. There are also economic aspects that need to be considered. So how do we make these projects highly interdisciplinary? How do we incorporate that interdisciplinary into our education and research enterprise? And that's how I'll just close. I think that the biggest opportunity we have, and I know we've talked about this in our collaboration, is the Atlas is a great example of so many showcases. You've used that word today throughout the world on engineering with nature projects. How do we take those showcases and turn them into living laboratories? I mean, what you're doing in this initiative is incredibly inspiring. Our students, our researchers, our faculty are inspired by it. How do we take the showcases, the types of projects that you see in the Atlas, and really turn them into living laboratories that we can then incorporate into our educational and research enterprise? I think that's one of the most exciting aspects of our collaboration and something that we're excited to see we can build on in the future.
Thank you very much, Don. We're thrilled to be collaborating with UGA to advance engineering with nature. And on the point of the interdisciplinarity of this practice, I think there's so many exciting potentials at the interface of disciplines and missions for us to pursue. So thank you for that. Eunice Heath, the next question for you. Eunice, what do you think private organizations, companies, and public agencies can learn from each other about engineering with nature that would help us advance practice across that spectrum?
Absolutely, and thanks so much, Todd, for the question, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in this launch event today, and congratulations. You know, when we look at the global issues of the 21st century, like climate change, ocean waste, water scarcity, biodiversity loss, and population growth, we realize that the magnitude of the challenges that are ahead for our communities and society as a whole. As your question rightfully implies, we're going to have to work together across sectors. We have to collaborate. We need to engage from academia, government, public agencies, private agencies to drive innovative, cost-effective, and low-impact solutions. This will help us to speed up the learning curve to address the urgency of the situation we're in. And I love what Dean Leo just said about living communities and having a living laboratory is absolutely a key for all of us to learn from one another. So what can we specifically learn from each other as we work across sectors? First, we can learn where the opportunities are for applying engineering with nature concepts. This is where I believe Engineering with Nature Atlas does a tremendous job as it presents tangible projects. We also need to share when there are wins and when we all fall short of design goals so we can leverage learnings, which is critical for evolving technologies such as engineering with nature concepts. Beyond this, I think private organizations and public agencies need to learn to better communicate the value of nature-based solutions and implementing engineering with nature concepts in terms of short-term and long-term impacts such as operational costs as well as risk. As you heard from John Sampson, we're really proud to showcase 4 projects in the Atlas this time around. These projects speak to the use of engineering with nature concepts for erosion control, water treatment, and carbon sequestration. No matter what the organizational framework we're in, we need to drive to both fiscal and environmental responsibility, and it takes collaboration. No one organization has all of the expertise that is required for a sustainable future. Collaboration is key and is critical for us all. Thanks so much, Todd, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Eunice, for that response. I just key in on one part. I think there's great need and great opportunity for the public and the private sector to learn together how to describe and express the value proposition that comes from valuing nature, not only in the short term, but in the long term. I appreciate very much Dow's commitment and the really kind of exceptional leadership you're providing in the industry for this practice. Next up, Justin McDonald, my friend. First of all, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I want to congratulate you for the Ship Island project being the cover project for Volume 2. It's a tremendous project that's been delivered by your team and your partners. My question to you, Justin, is your team in Mobile District is delivering full-scale engineering with nature and nature-based projects. what do you think is key to expanding your success to other regions and other organizations?
Yeah, appreciate you giving us the opportunity to present in the Atlas, and appreciate you giving me the opportunity to sit on this panel today. So what I'm going to say is not going to be of any surprise, because everybody else has already used this word numerous times, and it's really just having that collaborative spirit. You know, we were fortunate in our program in Mississippi, being congressionally authorized and some full federal funding to go do some really big, interesting projects. You know, but the reason we were able to be successful in all that was through our partnerships and our collaboration with the general public, with the federal agencies like the National Park Service and Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, Fish and Wildlife Service, National Marine Fisheries, USGS, and then the state agencies. You know, we're all professionals, and so we're all expected to be capable and competent, and those things make you credible, and that's how you build trust, and that gets you a seat at the table. And, you know, if you want to make these large-scale projects, or even these smaller-scale projects go, it's truly about collaboration. I tell my team all the time, you know, you check your ego at the door, and we come in and we work with these other entities, whether they're our partners, our non-federal sponsors, or our sister agencies that we're working with. You know, that collaborative spirit truly, I think, builds a creative mind. And I think that's what's kind of made our program successful. It was started by my predecessor, Dr. Susan Reese, laid the groundwork for our program and really trained us to think that way, you know, which is sometimes hard for people to do. You walk into an environment, you're an engineer or a scientist or whatever, and you may have an idea of what you think the solution is. And I found that our team has done a really good job of kind of listening and working with other entities, our partners and stakeholders, and the general public to craft a vision and ultimately deliver successful projects. And that's kind of laid the groundwork for us to move into other areas. We started out in Mississippi with this big congressionally authorized program, and we have been very successful there at delivering projects, Ship and Cat Island, 2 of those that are in the Atlas. And then that opened the door for us to do some work. The state of Alabama approached us about doing some work directly for them. We've gotten into the grant proposal writing business to go out and look for alternate ways to bring in funding to do work. There's a lot of money out there, particularly in the Gulf, you know, as a product of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. So I think we've been kind of collaborative and creative, not just technically, but also finding ways to get things done fiscally, using alternate funding sources and leveraging the capabilities of the different partners that are out there. So I think that's how this program could be translated to other areas of the Corps or other federal agencies. You know, we have a very active and robust multi-agency working group that I meet with a lot of those folks weekly, and all of them monthly. And just continuing to have that collaborative spirit, being open-minded about how we can get things done, even if it's way out of the box for how we typically do things in the Corps. I think that's the key to being successful and translating this to other areas within the organization.
Yep. Thank you for that good response, Justin. One thing I would key on, you know, delivering happens when you listen and then you work together. I mean, you guys have displayed that so well over many, many years. Dan Bond, next question to you, and it's a similar question for you and also Harold. I'd like you and Harold to share your thoughts about what you see as the key benefits of international collaboration on engineering with nature and nature-based solutions.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the invite today. And the first thing I'd say is we're really pleased in the Environment Agency to contribute to the Atlas and the second edition of the Atlas. So it's great to see some more examples in the Atlas of some of the working with nature and engineering with nature from the UK. And in some ways, what I'll say now is probably no different to the other speakers. The speakers have talked a lot about collaboration, they've talked about partnership, they've talked about listening, sharing. I think that's absolutely the root of it. And I think Eunice spoke really well on this. Is we do face a real climate challenge at the moment, don't we? We have a global solution, a global challenge. In some ways, what we do need to do is work globally around this. We need to work in partnership. We need to listen and learn to different organisations. So, say first and foremost, it's the value of trying to tackle a solution and trying to tackle the global problem with and listen to each other, share examples. But For example, we work really closely with Right Waterstat, obviously yourselves in the US as well. And it is really crucial, I think, particularly on this theme. And the way I'd sort of describe working with nature, we're seeing a much greater understanding of working with nature. And we've only had that through actually sharing lessons internationally. So we understand some of the challenges. We also now started to understand many more of the solutions, how we need to work with communities, how we need different engineering solutions. And we've only been able to do that by testing and trialing things ourselves, sharing that with other countries, but also listening and learning from other organisations right across the globe. I think that's the real value. It's the real value of something like the Atlas, actually, because you can pick it up and you can see actually the context in the United States is often no different to the context in England, Europe, or Africa, or wherever that may be. So I think it's absolutely vital. And I think we are at a critical point, I think, with global climate change and impact that has on things like flooding, heat. We see more and more on fires in the UK. They are issues which we all face. We're in a race in a way to try and tackle some of this, but the most important thing is this race is a race without a competition, actually. This is a race where we actually do need to work jointly and collaboratively. So like the other speakers would say, the international element of this is about collaboration, it's about learning, listening, and being aware that there are others who are often better suited and often ahead of you in the game.
Thank you very much for Dan, for that response. I've had the opportunity to travel and to see many of your projects and other projects around the world, and I've always been impressed by the conclusion that we have much more in common with respect to our challenges and opportunities than there are differences. Sometimes we overestimate the idea of uniqueness, and I believe international collaboration exposes that, the listening and the learning that you emphasize so well. Harold, the last concluding question to you, similar question. What do you think are the opportunities we can capture through expanded international collaboration on engineering with nature and nature-based solutions? On mute. Do we have Harold? There he is. Just hold on just a second, Harold.
This is better?
Yes, now we do.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Harold.
No, I just started with saying it's an honor to participate at the other side of the ocean, 5 meters below sea level. And well, I think I fully agree with the other speakers, and there are many opportunities. Engineering with nature is an important, relatively new instrument in our toolbox to protect ourselves to floods and also to adapt to climate change. And as we all know, climate change adaptations, they are not single country issues. We are in a global crisis. We cannot solve this crisis alone, so international cooperation is very important. In the Netherlands, we started in the 90s of last century with nature-based solutions, both at the coast, by the way, and fluvial systems. And in a short time, nature-based solutions became our preferred strategy to protect ourselves to floods. We use, for example, sand nourishments to keep our shores safe, and the benefits are huge. Already mentioned, but in our case, sand is extremely flexible, also adaptive. It's cheap, it's natural, so better chances for nature development. People like it, so we have a lot of public support. And last but not least, it gives benefits to the economical functions like recreation, possibilities for co-funding. So these aspects are also opportunities we can capture through expanded international collaboration on engineering with nature and nature-based solutions. And it's not just widening our toolbox, it's also learning from the best showcases in the world. We can improve scientific evidence, also very important, the cooperation with the universities. And last but not least, we can work on a growing international nature-based solutions community, I think. As we are here in this panel, we are all representatives of rich countries. We have the knowledge, the best knowledge in the world, we have the experience. I think we also have a responsibility to share this knowledge to other countries, developing countries, for example, working on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And we can do so by the Atlas, but also the natural and nature-based features guidelines, also leaded by usage. In this way, it is possible, I think, to let the international community grow, creating new showcases, new experiences, in the benefit of all countries involved. First of all, we improve flood safety and adapt to climate change, but we also improve our knowledge on nature-based solutions, collect more showcases, and improve scientific evidence. So many opportunities for international cooperation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Harold, for that answer. As you pointed out earlier, the Corps and the Rijkswaterstaat share a common history. We come from organizations over 200 years old. And the collaboration between the Corps and the Rijkswaterstaat has been so valuable, and I'm excited about what that collaboration is going to produce in the years ahead. I want to thank each of you for participating in our launch event today. This has been a great panel, great responses from each of you. And I also want to thank you for the contributions that each of your organizations are making to advancing nature-based solutions for the world. Thank you. I have just a few closing remarks from our launch today that I'd like to share with you. There are many sources of inspiration for engineering with nature. And one source of inspiration for me personally is art. Maynard Dixon was a premier artist of the American West. He was a correspondent and friend of such American art figures as Frederick Remington and the photographer Ansel Adams. Maynard Dixon was born in Fresno, California in 1875. I too was born in Fresno, California, but a few years later. Frederick Remington wrote to the young artist in 1891 with this advice: study good pictures, do not imitate them. Read books and good literature. See and observe the things in nature that captivate your fancy, and above all, draw, 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 and always from nature. Maynard Dixon did just that through his life, traveling across the American West, drawing and painting its landscapes and its people. Dixon was living in San Francisco, California in 1906. He had a studio on Pine Street in the city. And he was there on the morning of April 18th, 1906, during the earthquake that shocked the city, the country, and the world that destroyed San Francisco. His studio survived the initial quake and provided time for him to rescue some of his work before the fires that raged in the city consumed nearly all. A lot has been written about the San Francisco earthquake. One of the lessons of that tale is the contribution to the disaster that was made by the engineering of so-called made land, where over many years, hundreds of acres of the city were built on top of unstable ground made by filling in wetlands, creeks, and even open waters along the shoreline of the bay, stealing, in a sense, from Mother Nature to create land for city development. Nearly 30 years after the earthquake, Dixon contributed as an artist to the design and construction of a great product of engineering that we call the Golden Gate Bridge. He recommended Irving Murrow to the project team, who became the consulting architect for the project. And Dixon played an important part in the selection of the iconic red lead color of the bridge. An artist like Dixon would understand the importance of blending human engineering, design, aesthetic, and nature. In a letter to the architect Murrow in 1935, Dixon wrote this: "I understand that some objection is made to red lead because it changes color somewhat. From my point of view, as one whose business is paint and color, this fading is a gain in harmony of tone, rather than a loss. It is nature's method of bringing the raw paint into relation with its surroundings. The directors should not try to be smarter than God. Good advice, I think, for engineering. In closing, I want to thank my fellow Atlas team members for their work and dedication in delivering Volume 2 of the Atlas. Michelle Bourne, Burton Sudell, Emily Moynihan, Courtney Chambers, and Jeff King, well done. And to the excellent organizations who built the projects that you will see in Volume 2. We hope you enjoy Volume 2 of the Engineering with Nature Atlas. It's free to all and available to you now in electronic form on our website, which you see here at engineeringwithnature.org. Please use the Engineering with Nature Atlases to spark your own conversations about the future of infrastructure and nature-based solutions as we seek a partnership between human engineering and nature. Thank you for joining us today. The future is bright with opportunity for engineering with nature.